I can say for the first time when I got to Dallas, I got better as a player because I had no choice. It's either you fight for it or you're out. I've always been the best player at Arizona State.
Right.
I line up and I'm like, I'm the guy. I got here and it was like, man, you better sharpen your tools. You better be mentally sharp. You better be studying your playbook, doing all those things.
I can't even imagine the competition level because, for me, when I got from high school to college, you're like, holy shit, the game is so much faster. Oh, yeah. And then you realize, when you're in college, you see those guys and you're like, those guys are special, right? And so every team's got 2 to 5 of those guys, unless you're Alabama or something, right? Darren Woodson, thanks for coming on today, bud.
Conrad, thanks for having me. It took you how long to get to, ask me? Come on. Dude, I'm right here in your backyard. I can't get an invite. Can't get anything. Amy has to call me to get me going.
Oh, my gosh. I had to twist Sharon's arm to get you over here. Let's be honest. No, I'm teasing. No, thanks for coming on today, man. I really appreciate it. Before we talk about your incredible journey, kind of from the gridiron to the boardroom now, the Super Bowls, Ring of Honor, captain. I mean, all-time leading tackler in Dallas Cowboy history. Yeah. Unbelievable.
I'm still paying for it. My body is
I bet you are. Yeah. And hopefully future Hall of Famer.
Man, I'm hoping.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll get there. I always love to kind of like go back and talk about people's childhood.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's what a lot of times shapes you in this world. And from what I've gathered, you have a really awesome mom.
Yeah.
And I'd love to hear, kind of your story growing up. I think you were the youngest of four kiddos. Yeah. 2 older brothers, right?
2 older brothers and an older sister.
They had to pick on you.
Oh, dude, I got beat up so many times. That's why I played at the highest level in football and got, was kind of tough.
They roughed you up.
They roughed me up, my sister including. So grew up in Phoenix. In the Maryville area, my mom worked 2 jobs. I remember waking up at 5 o'clock or waking up to go to school. My mom was always gone. She left the house about 5:30. Went to her first job, Maricopa County, where she worked 38 years at Maricopa County Superior Court.
Wow.
And then her second job was right after that. She used to get home at about 10:30, 11 o'clock every night. It was like Monday through Friday.
Man.
And I watched a woman sacrifice for her kids. So I didn't have my father. I knew my father, but he wasn't in my life on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
And it kind of sucked.
Sure.
For most of, through my life until I got to an adult age of not having that father figure. But she did a little bit of everything. Yeah. And the one thing I learned about my mother, first of all, she's like the toughest person. I don't want to say woman, toughest person, mentally toughest person you'll ever be around. But she used to set up a process. She had these, what she would call processes. And everybody talks about them now. But the way she kept her 4 kids off the street, working 2 jobs, was she kept us active. Yeah. I mean, we were in if the ball rolled, we played, all of us, brother, sister, everybody played, right?
Right.
But my sister, she designated my sister the lead of the house. So when we got up in the morning, my sister would make breakfast, and 98% of the time was oatmeal. I can't even look at oatmeal today, right? But she would make us oatmeal and then get us off to school. And the process was you eat in the morning, you get on the bus takes you to school. After school, doesn't matter what's going on. There is no after school basketball, hanging out at the school. You get back on the bus takes you back to the church, where the church is right across the street from the house, drop you off there. You go into the after school program.
At church, yep.
At church, all of us.
Yep.
I spent more time, Conrad, at church than any other place. Dude, I was the church, man. We used to, Mom, I mean, it was every day, right?
Yeah.
So after school program, and then right across the street from the church was the YMCA.
Yeah.
And we used to hit that Y every single day, and then go from there, from basketball. I mean, you name it. That's why I think we're better. I'm a better athlete than my kids are, because I played every sport: basketball, baseball, football, tether tennis, dodgeball.
I know now it's
ping
so specialized,
pong.
right?
Dude, I kill my kids in ping pong. They have no idea where I'm coming from, but that's how we were raised, right?
Right.
And that's what really molded me into the person that I am today. It's like I understood the process then. And I understood that the only way I was going to be able to transition from from Pop Warner football to high school to the college world into the NFL was to have a process in place that kept a discipline process that kept me in place and being consistent with it. Yeah. So that's why I'm sitting here today.
Right. Do you think that was the church really help you keep down the straight and narrow, keep you out of the bad?
Just kept me kept us off the street, because my best friends, the guys I went to school with, my best friend did 26 years. He spent 26 years in the penitentiary. And
Keith Tucker, right?
Keith Tucker. And Keith was both mom and dad at the house, had a good family structure, but wanted to make the quick dollar.
Yeah.
And those opportunities were there for all of us, for me as well. And I was too afraid of my mom. And then two, I just knew that there was more. Man, God, it's crazy that I can sit here, and I'm not saying this in an arrogant way, but I knew I was different.
Yeah.
I just knew when I was a kid, I just knew that I was different from most kids. Yeah. And I had a path, and people used to tell me, man, you're different. You're going to do something.
It's probably because of your mom's influence.
Exactly.
On just she laid that foundation for you, and you followed it. Yeah. You executed.
And it was laid, I think, based off of fear.
Yes, there was sure. Back in those days, right?
There was some fear.
You get that switch, you get that bell.
Yeah, go get the switch off the tree. Now I didn't want to get I didn't want to let her down, and I didn't want to be a problem, an extra burden to my mom. Because I used to be the same kid. I used to sit there and watch my mom, flip a coin to figure out which bill she's going to pay. She paying the water bill. Man, we went without water. We went without electricity. We went without a lot. Christmas wasn't Christmas. And birthday presents weren't coming, all the time. But you just kind of knew that, she was going to put food on the table, and she was going to make sure that you were well taken care of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And it's also awesome that, you have those functions like the church that help you keep down that right path. I had Lieutenant Alan West was on the show a couple weeks ago.
Great man.
Great dude.
Oh, yeah.
And he was talking about, we talked about he grew up in Atlanta, and literally across the street from MLK's church and was his elementary. But he was talking about how the church back in those days was so much more involved in all the kids' lives in those neighborhoods, right? And playing all the sports and getting out. And because of that, you were around good people, and it kept you out of bad problems, And I think, he equates to a lot of the problems now in society is we've kind of gotten away from the church.
That's right. That home base.
That home base. He was very fortunate that he also had, two extremely strong parents, in his life there. When did you know that you thought, man, I can maybe play college football?
In high school, man, I knew. So the scouts would come by, and some of the college scouts would come by, and there was a couple of players in my sophomore year that they would come see. One of the guys is named Preston Lambert, and big offensive lineman, and I remember them coming to see him. But my junior year, I was at practice, and one scout came in from the Washington Huskies.
Yeah.
And he was there to look at Preston. And then after practice, I was running in, and he just grabbed me. And this is probably the first time that I really, really, really knew that I was going to play. I've always felt like I was a really good football player. It was just, I had a confidence about me in that way. But he grabbed me to the side, and he said, hey, I'm here to see someone else, but you're different, and you're gonna be a guy. You're gonna be a guy. I'll be back to see you." And man, he came back that year, and then all the other coaches, the SC started, UCLA started, and then I started getting my junior year, like in the first couple of week games, I was getting letters.
Yeah,
and they were coming, and that's when and my coaching staff also they were pumping me up as well.
Oh yeah,
and that's and that's one of the things you kind of need. We always talk about guys having a gift and being able to play at high levels, but it's always people that pour into you. When the people pour into you and they start to say positive things about you, hey, you just stay on a straight and narrow, you just keep your head focused, stay humble and all. That's when I was like, they were speaking it into me.
Yeah.
And I started to believe it, man. As long as I did what was right.
Yeah.
And work my ass off, excuse my language, but work my ass off, I was going to have an opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah. And all I needed was the opportunity.
Amen to that. I mean, that's what life's all about, is just that opportunity.
Yeah.
Regardless of what you're doing, whether it's getting into college or in the business world. So you go to ASU.
Yeah.
Close to home? Was that
close to home? Yeah. Close to home. Well, so my grades weren't, I was what they called a Prop 48.
Sure.
Man, I think the most,
when did you graduate high school? What year?
I graduated 87.
87.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm 93. I'm 6 years younger.
So when I was coming in, my grades had dropped my junior, senior year. I wasn't focused on grades. I was like football. I thought I was the next coming, right?
Right.
And it was myself and another guy named Felipe Sparks. I don't know Felipe Jordan Sparks. Remember the singer?
No, I know who Felipe Sparks
is. Right?
Sure.
So
yeah, it's unbelievable that you had another teammate like that.
So Felipe and we ran together and hung out with Keith and everybody else, but we weren't focused on our grades. And we just played football at the highest level, and that's what we did. And I remember my senior year, like the news came down that I was going to have to be a Prop 48. And this is the reason why I stayed at Arizona State. Don Bakke, who was the recruiting coordinator for Arizona State, said, "Hey, look, you can either go to a junior college or you can come here."
Right.
And you're going to have to sit out your first year. And it was the first time in my life since second grade that I had to sit out from playing football. And it was, that was, in my opinion, was the time my life changed.
Yeah.
I was humiliated. First of all, I knew I was a good student. I knew I could get the work done.
Yep.
I was just lazy, right? I knew I could get it done, right?
Same day, same way.
But I had, like, God put you through things. I had to go through the embarrassment, because the embarrassment was, he's just a jock. He's a dumb jock and this and that. And and guys that I played against that were going to schools were saying all the negative things. Oh yeah, you're not smart enough to do this and that. And man, it to this day, I have a chip on my shoulder from going through that humiliation, because I had to sit out. I was there at Arizona State that first year. Couldn't go around the football program. Couldn't be around the coaching staff.
Yeah.
Had to get my grades right. And Bakke and Coach Lovie Smith, who was my position coach, who was going to be my position coach after my first freshman year, I had to go meet with them once a week.
Yep.
Not at the facility, off site. And I would meet with them, and they would make sure everything was fine with me, and I'd go on. That's the only interaction I had with the program.
I know.
And once I got done with that, once I got my grades right, I automatically got the scholarship and moved on. But man, I was like, I came into practice that next year, hell bent. I just I will not. And it took me, and it was the craziest thing. That first semester, A's, B's, got hyper focused, but it just taught me. I think in that little time, in that 9 months, it taught me that
it was humility, right?
It was humility, one, and I had to go through it. But then also, I've been so wrapped up in the sports all my life. It was the first time I didn't play a sport, and I saw other things.
Yeah.
I saw people that were at school for business. I saw the people that were in school for engineering, biology, and I just saw different verticals of life that you could go into. And I think it opened my eyes to, hey, football is just one part. Sports is just one part.
Right.
There's a lot more to success and however you measure success that are out there. And I think that was, for me, that was eye-opening, and it stuck with me because I knew, like, again, getting into the NFL was going to be hard. Yeah. And once I got into the NFL, that wasn't going to last forever.
Nope.
What other avenues are out there? So I learned a lot in that first year.
I'm going to tell this story right now, Darren, and I've never told this story hardly to anybody. I mean, only people that know this are like people that grew up with me. But I was a scrub field goal kicker way back in the day. That was my gig, and I got recruited by a few D1 schools, but John Mackovic decided to sign Phil Dawson instead of me that year.
Oh my God, really? Phil Dawson.
So I ended up signing with a D2 school out of high school. Well, my senior year, I somehow convinced my parents, because I hated algebra. I didn't understand why we're putting letters with stuff, and I just didn't want to do it. And I convinced my parents that, listen, I can just take an exam, a test, and clip out of this test, right? And I'll get the credit and I'll graduate. Well, of course, me being the guy who, again, just like you, lazy, only wanted to play sports, didn't care about anything else, I waited to the last minute to take all these tests. I take it the first time, and I get a 68, 2 points from passing, right? Mm-hmm. So I at that time, you could only take it twice, I guess. So I try to study a little bit more, Literally, this is like the last week of school for the year. I take it again. I get my results back. I made a 68 again. So I literally didn't get to graduate high school with my class. They would not let me walk across the stage because I was short half a credit, right? So I had to go to summer school to finish that one class. So that, and I didn't even tell my college, so that I had my degree, my high school diploma. But that humility of not being able to walk across that stage is just like, I think it's one of those things in life that you're just like, man, I'm not going to let stupid shit like that happen to me again.
It's not. But here's the thing. Here's the thing that's of all of what you just said. You know what what really stood out to me was that most people, if those things happen, they just stop. They quit. They don't want to go through the humiliation of sitting in a summer school class, knowing you should have graduated. People are probably wondering, what the hell are you doing here? Yeah.
Everybody in there, they're like, bro, why are you here? I'm like, I had to tell the story.
Most people
miserable.
Quit. I'll just go off to the military.
Right.
Or I'll just go do, A, B, and C. And that's the difference.
Well, I knew the only way I was going to get to college, like I had a scholarship, and I was like, my parents couldn't afford it.
Right.
And so I was like, I gotta get it done.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And that was, to me, that was my only way out of where I grew up. And, I've told this story a lot, but, like driving through town, and there's a huge mural of Tom Landry there in my hometown, right? And I drive by that all the time, and just be like, man, this guy is the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Like, he made it.
Came from here.
Yeah. He came from here.
Right.
If that guy can make it out of here, I can make it out of here too.
Same.
Yeah. And so anyhow, but that's my humility story on grades, man. Yeah. And
we all got to go through it somehow. Some way you're going to go through it.
That's right.
If you've had any success in your life, you had to overcome something.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. What so you get to Arizona State, you get in there. Are you starting immediately your freshman year, man?
First year they had me running down on, it's kind of the same way the Cowboys. Had me running down on special teams. I played the nickel guy here and there. More of a role player my first year.
Yeah.
They had two seniors that were playing the position I was playing in. I was hungry though, man. I say this now, but I always felt like I was a better player.
Was Jake the Snake there at your
He wasn't there. No, he wasn't there till I left. I believe he came in like the year after, somewhere in there.
Boy, ASU had a hell of a run last year.
They had a run this past year, man. I was so proud of them boys.
Bro,
I'm so proud of that. The coaching staff was just awesome.
They should have beat Texas. That was a joke.
Hands down.
They
did everything they could to give that game away, and they did.
How do you not call targeting?
I know it. I'm not going to.
We're not even going to go down that road. I know. I'm sure you and Sharon had a lot of those discussions.
Yeah, Sharon backed off. She didn't say. She didn't. Well, she wasn't talking too much trash. Now everybody else in the office, all the other UT fans, they gave it to me. But yeah, so where were we?
Well, so your journey at ASU, I guess.
Yeah, it was an interesting time in my life because first of all, I'd overcome so much then. And then by my sophomore, junior year, I kind of knew what my plan was. I knew I was going to get drafted. I knew that the pro scouts are coming in. I knew I was going to get drafted somewhere. Yeah. Didn't know what position I was going to play.
Now, is it true that you were a Steelers fan?
I was a huge Steelers fan. I was and I didn't have any choice. I told you my sister was a bully, right? So my sister's favorite team.
She was the Steelers.
It was a Pittsburgh. She loved Lynn Swann. Like she fell in love with Lynn Swann, right? And we didn't have. We didn't have a team in Arizona at the time, right?
That's right.
So I didn't get the Cardinals didn't come in until like my sophomore, junior year in high school, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So all we had was, people watched the Niners or Raiders or whatnot, or the Cowboys.
The Cowboys were pretty big always.
Cowboys were huge, by far the number one team in Phoenix at that time.
Yeah.
Were the Dallas Cowboys. My buddies all loved the Cowboys. Felipe and Keith, everybody loved the Cowboys. My sister loved the Steelers. So I would watch the Steelers play. Cowboys are the team I hated the most.
That's so funny.
Whoever played the Cowboys, I wanted them to win that game. I couldn't stand the Cowboys. But something changes though, Conrad, during that timeline. Like I get drafted by the Cowboys, 37th pick. Everybody hates the Cowboys in my house. And until that man signed that check. And once he signed that check, somehow they all became
Cowboys fans, didn't they?
that Steelers allegiance just dropped, man. We could care less.
And what a time. I mean, you come in your first year, you win a Super Bowl.
Yeah. Didn't go to a bowl game when I was at Arizona State.
No shit.
Did not go to a bowl game. Did not. We were close. We were a 500 team. And back then, in today's world, we go to a bowl game.
Yeah, for sure. Back then, you're right. There were so few bowls compared to today.
So I go, I come in, and in my first year, the team is loaded. I had never been around that many alpha dogs.
Yeah.
In my life. And I'll tell you this quick story. So when I was playing, Dave Campo went up and watched me run. He asked Coach Lovie Smith, hey, what kind of guy is he? And he says, he's an alpha dog. He's an alpha now. He's going to come in. He's going to, scrap and fight. And that's exactly what Campo was looking for. Campo was like, he fits the mold, right? Because that's what Jimmy wants. And that's what I walked into my first year with the Cowboys. I walked into a locker room where Ken Norton Jr. and Tony Tober, and that's on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, so many guys that had these personalities on the deal. Charles Haley, he came in the same year I came in,
right?
But just a lot of hungry players that wanted to win a championship on the defensive side of the ball. That's not even including Irvin and everybody on that offensive line on the other side of the ball. So the personalities were
best offensive line in the history of the game.
Yeah, exactly. The personalities in that locker room talent-wise, there's a lot of talent, but the mindset was just different.
Yeah.
I mean, practices were elevated. Man, you battled for your position at practice. Like I can say for the first time when I got to Dallas, I got better as a player.
Wow.
Because I had no choice.
Yes.
It's either you fight for it or you're out. I've always been the best player at Arizona State. Right. I line up and I'm like, I'm the guy. I got here and it was like, man, you better sharpen your tools. You better be mentally sharp. You better be studying your playbook, doing all those things.
I can't even imagine the competition level because, for me, when I got from high school to college, you're like, holy shit, the game is so much faster.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then you realize, when you're in college, I was fortunate enough to play with Byron Hanspard, who won the Doak Walker, Zach Thomas, right? You see those guys and you're like, those guys are special, right? Mm-hmm. And so every team's got 2 to 5 of those guys, depending unless you're Alabama or something, right? And And then to take all those and then put them into the pro world, I just can't even imagine. I mean, it's...
And that's how Jimmy ran the organization. He ran it almost like a college program where, practices were intense. We were in full pads all the time. I mean, we used to have 2-a-days at training camp. So we hit, and there was a lot of yelling.
A little hot down there in Austin, wasn't it?
Oh my God. Fights breaking out every practice when we, got together and it was like a fervor. I used to always tell people, man, my best days were Sundays because I get to hit someone else. Right? I wanted to compete against somebody else. And I'm tired of seeing the same dudes at practice every day.
Right. Who was the hardest working dude that you ever played with?
Michael Irvin.
No shit.
Hands down. Not even. It ain't close in that aspect. I think as far and there's
and you hear and I've heard that obviously.
Man, he's an extremist all the way across the board.
Right.
I mean, whether it be in the locker room or outside the locker room.
He played hard on and off. There's no doubt.
I mean, he just, he was a guy that my first year with the Cowboys, if you walked into the training staff training room in Valley Ranch, and if you're walking into the training room where all the trainers are and the rehabs are, you can see outside to the field.
Yeah.
So I'm standing in Jim Mauer's office, and it's about 2:00. There's like a window. It's like a week before you go to training camp where they keep you away.
Yeah.
So you have to stay away from the facility or whatnot. If you want to come in and get some treatment, you can come in and get treatment and all that. But they don't want you working out. They want you to just chill out before you go to training camp. And I remember walking in. I was in there in the ice plunge, and I got out, and I just casually walked over into Jim Mauer's office. And I'm looking at what his window looks out to the football field that's out there. And I'm watching this guy, 88. He's got his jersey on, shorts on. He's running routes by himself. No one there. No quarterback throwing the ball.
Just running routes.
He's running routes. Quick slant, deep four route, deep out. Comes back. I mean, he's got this water bottle. He throws up, sprays his mouth with water. I'm watching him run these routes just over and over and over. He's throwing up. I mean, it's hot. It is hot. It's July, man.
Yeah.
He sits there for a sec, boom, gets right back on the line. I'm like, this dude. And I'm looking at Jim Mauer, and he's like, yeah, he's a monster. This is every year.
You got to go against him.
I had to go against him in practice all the time, man. But he just made me a better player.
For sure.
His work ethic it elevated everything. It elevated everyone.
Yeah.
And, it just wasn't him. And there were so many guys. Tony Tolbert is a guy that I attribute my career to in a lot of ways because Tony Tolbert didn't miss a practice for 8 years. Man. Not a practice.
Wow.
8 straight.
Heard of in today's
knee
world.
Injury, back, shoulder, did not miss practice. He showed up every day. Daryl Johnston, my God, man, to this day, dude, I'll get emotional talking about certain guys because how much they didn't say much to me. I just watched.
Yeah.
I used to watch Daryl Johnston show up at special teams meeting early in the morning every freaking day.
Yeah.
Special teams meeting, offense meeting, come back, lead, just be a true leader within the locker room, do everything right. Wasn't the most talented guy, but did every damn thing right. And I just watched him, man. I just learned. I'd learn from guys like that, man. So that's why I wanted to be a professional. They taught me how to be a professional.
Right. I tell you, Emmett's Hall of Fame speech when he talks about Moose.
Yeah.
Boy, I don't know how you don't cry at that moment, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
selfless, man. Selfless. Just
boy, did he sacrifice his body for Emmett. But boy, they were such a fun tandem to watch.
Man, they were really good, tough, just like hard nosed. And then Troy, like you Troy used to get a lot of flack for being, the guy within that locker room, especially when Jimmy left. Like, the guy I felt bad for was Troy because when Jimmy left, a lot of the leadership onus really fell on his shoulder.
Yep.
Like he had to he had to do everything.
That fucking one rant that you see.
Dude. That was very PG. Extremely
I'm
PG.
sure.
I've seen it X
Yes.
on the other backside
Right.
of things, because he had no choice. He was a perfectionist.
Yes.
He wanted to win.
Yes.
And he understood probably more than anyone that we only had a small window of time to be excellent.
Yep.
This team
Sure.
could have easily, without Jimmy getting fired,
I
this
know.
team could have easily won
4 or 5 in
3,
a row.
4,
I know.
in a row. And I think and it fell on him to lead. And man, he did everything in his power, but we didn't draft well.
Yep.
I mean, the draft sucked.
Yep.
After a while, we were bringing in players in the early rounds that couldn't even make any other team. And we had no depth in 95, 96. Those years started to lose depth. So, I mean, a lot of that onus fell on him, man. And he did everything he possibly could. And it was just, wasn't enough, man. We just didn't have the right pieces.
No. Yeah. I mean, it's wild, especially for a quarterback. Like when you look at Tom Brady and the longevity that he had, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How he just
special. That's special.
I mean, it's just unfathomable.
You got to admire it, man. You have to admire it.
You really do.
Here's the constant. For the longest time.
Well, he had the same coach.
He had the same coach.
There's no doubt about it.
Imagine Troy having the
Jimmy.
same coach.
Yeah, I know.
A little different. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Who was the nastiest or dirtiest player you played
against?
Eric
Williams, hands down. Big E.
Really?
Big E was, our offensive line was really good. And Eric Williams is a first ballot Hall of Famer if he doesn't have a car accident and tear his knee up. He's first ballot, hands down, best offensive tackle in football at that time.
Yeah.
And he was a guy that he had this boxing background, man, and he would thump. Like, he'd fight you tooth and nail, spit on you, grab your face.
So, dude, him and Haley going up against each other all the time in practice, unbelievable.
And when Big E was at his best, when the athleticism was there without the knee injuries, man, he was so dominant. Yeah. He was so freaking good. And my first year watching Big E, just from afar, man, he's 6'6", 6'5".
Right.
And he's just moving like he's a tight end. Man, he's just he's equipped. I think the most dominant player was Larry Allen. When Larry Allen came in, I said, "Oh my God, this
Sonoma State."
Oh yeah, out of nowhere. I mean, he was drafted. Who the heck drafts this dude, man? But he came in, unbelievable.
I think he's the greatest guard that's ever played.
Oh yeah, I agree. I think he's the most dominant football player that I've ever seen. Like when you move 360-pound men against their will.
I love
There's something about
the stories that I heard about him where he literally would go up to the offense. He'd go up to the line and basically do the train.
Yeah.
To tell the other team, it's coming right here.
I'm about to truck you.
And I'm going to run your
so good.
ass off.
They wouldn't allow him to hit us in practice.
Really?
They would tell Larry, hey, just just and tell us, hey, just don't run up into the gap. He's got it. All right. We're like, trust me. I'm not trying to get up in there either. But yeah, there were some great, I mean, I say those two, man, but I've never seen a running back that God made to play running back like Emmett. Didn't give him all the speed in the world, but the vision and the timing and doing he did everything right on the football field, man.
That game against the Giants with the shoulder, unbelievable. I mean, that's a warrior. He's tough, there, man.
He's tough, man. There were some really, good football players. And Conrad, that's one of the reasons why, like, I feel like other than Charles Haley, Deion Sanders was there. Deion's probably the greatest athlete that I've ever been around. But, Deion came from another team. He's only there for a few years.
Yeah.
Charles came from San Francisco as well. But as far as a homegrown player, like, I played with that organization for 12 years, 13 if outside of my last year. But I want to, we talk about Hall of Fame. I want to go into the Hall of Fame, and I want to just talk about the guys that I played with on that defense side, the guys who never got any recognition. Man, we're the number one defense for years.
For sure.
We had first 9 turnovers in the Super Bowl. Like, that defense was so good.
So
the
good.
depth that we had. Like, I want to talk about those guys, man.
Yeah.
I mean, the Leon Letts, Tony Casillas, the Russell Marylands,
Chad Hennings.
Man. Chad couldn't even get on the field. We were so damn deep.
Right.
He couldn't even get, and then when he finally got on the field, he had to earn it, So,
well, he led the way for you to get your 94 yards.
Yeah, and all that Chad tell you all that, man. You tell Chad. Yeah, he was fast though. But there were so many great football players on that defense, man. That man, they deserve it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So football ends.
Mm-hmm.
What happens to you in life then? Like, are you just like, what am I going to do next?
No, I knew.
You knew.
I knew. Look, I thought I was going to play an extra 3 years. I ended up herniating a disc in my back in L4, L5. Had nerve damage all the way down my right leg, and at the time I had already 8 surgeries. So not just on my, I'm not saying on my back. I'm saying like wrist, forearm, shoulder, fingers, groin, you name it, man. And I had a back surgery in '95, L4, S1. Then in 2003 or 4, I was working out. I felt a twinge. And it was a week before training camp. And I remember running and with the group doing our little, we call it our training test for going there. You run 2110s, right? And I'm finishing up the last one, and I'm walking up a hill, and I just felt like this twinge in my back, man, really bad. Like, damn it, take you to your knees. And
I've had L4 and L5 slipped down. I get it.
You get it, yeah.
It's paralyzing.
Yeah. So I don't know how I got to the training room. I think my guys helped me get there because I kind of went I was in so much pain that they had to get me in there. The training staff put me in what do they call it? How they wheel you in a wheelchair. They put me in a wheelchair backwards. I was sitting with my knees on the wheelchair. I couldn't sit down. They wheeled me into one of the vans.
Yeah,
I got in the van. They took me to the hospital. And I had the surgery that same night. I had the surgery, and Drew Dossett did my surgery.
Wow.
And I had that surgery, and I remember going through that process and next couple of days, I was feeling a little bit better. Some of the pain was gone, but I still had a lot of the nerve issues.
Yep.
I could barely walk. And I had 3 kids, man. And I remember, going through this rehab process for a while. And I was going to go up to training camp. I remember sitting at the house. The team was in California, Oxnard, at training camp. Parcells is calling me. He's like, how you doing? How you feeling? I'm like, man, I just, this sucks.
Not good.
I said, I need to get out of here. He's like, I'll get you up here. Because I had to beg him to fly me out there. Right. So I go out there and I'm spending time with the team. Britt Brown and Jim Maurer, the trainers, are training me and trying to get me, rehabbing me and all that stuff. And I needed to be around the team.
Yeah.
But it was, I felt like I was going to be able to come back at the end of that season.
Mm-hmm.
But I had a deadline. I had to get back before like October 2nd or something like that. It was a crazy date. Or else I had to sit out the rest of the year. And Britt Brown rehabbed me, man, like none other. Like we were trying to get back. And I was making progress, but the nerve disc did not heal. Yep. It just would not regenerate. And I had a really bad workout one day, man. And after that workout, I had this what they call drop foot, and I couldn't push off or whatnot.
Yeah.
And I walked in the locker room and I just knew. I knew, man. And the day before I kind of knew because I was playing ball with my little guy, my son, my oldest son now.
Yeah.
And I was throwing the ball. He threw the ball over my head and I couldn't get it. And I almost fell down because of my foot. And that kind of then I was like, man, this is not good. So long story short, I'm in the locker room and I just decided at that day, like I had 2 more years left on my contract. And I just like, I want a quality of life. I want a quality. I don't want to be in a wheelchair.
Exactly. around my kids.
I want to walk. I want to be able to play ball with my kids or do whatever I want to do. I made a lot of money. I didn't spend no money. I held on to I just started playing this in my head. Like I knew there was more. And I spent so much time watching the real estate guys, the George Basses and John Webbers of the world that I knew, the Roger Staubachs, that I knew there was more to my life than just football. So I had unlike a lot of guys that I play with, I had an easier transition because I had played this game in my mind of what I was going to do. Yeah. Walking off. So I went to ESPN, did some work with ESPN, but I continued to learn the real estate game throughout this process.
Man, you spent a long time at the ESPN. I mean,
I was 13 years.
Unbelievable.
Way too damn long, dude. It should have been 6 years. And I had
going to Bristol
some advice.
Back and forth.
Oh my God. I had some good advice from number 12. And you know his name.
Yes.
Who told me, you know what? You need to get in this real estate game now and spend time doing. He was recruiting me to Staubach back in the day.
Sure.
And he's like, you need to get in because if you go to ESPN, that's not going to be a good look. And I was like, man, I'll still be around football. He said, yeah, here's the problem. He says, I'm going to exit this business. You know what they're going to do? They're going to exit you out the door one of these days. And you're not going to have, man, it was a real conversation. And this was like my 30 year in the league and at ESPN. He's like, man, that's not for long there. Don't.
Yeah, right.
You know, you need to go ahead and make this transition now. And I didn't listen. I stayed a long time and I started working real estate while I was at ESPN. And I couldn't do, and you know this.
Yeah, you can't do.
You can't do both.
You got to be all in on
You got to
stuff.
be all in. You can't be all in. So I made my way out of there.
Yeah. What did you enjoy about that time? Like what do you take away from the time being at ESPN all those years?
I take away, like, first of all, I thought TV was going to be easy. I sucked. Dude, my first couple years, it was brutal. It was brutal in the sense that I kind of, I always looked at guys on the TV and like, you don't know what the hell they're talking about. They don't know X's and O's. I'm going to get in there and show them what X's and O's, how we do this and that. And it wasn't just X's and O's. You had to know who the GMs were for the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, you had to do some
homework. I don't know. All I know is the guys we were about to play against, right?
That's right.
Or my team, right?
That's right.
So specifically the NFC East, I was strong in the NFC East. We got outside the NFC East, you can.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm AFC West. What are you talking about? Like,
what's
I don't know. Denver Broncos are in the AFC West. Like, I had to learn.
Right.
I had to learn some things. So it took me a while to get there, but then also it's just the nuances of doing TV. Like knowing who to look at, knowing, when to pause or slow down. And some of the guys that were really good were the guys that really worked at it. The Mark Schlereths worked at it. I mean, all day, every day. He was impressive. Trey Wingo brought me up. Those two really brought me up. And then Teddy Bruschi came in. Teddy's work ethic was unmatched.
That's amazing.
They just put so much work into what they were doing. That's why they're so dang good on TV.
Yeah, right.
It took me a while to get to that work ethic because I just felt like I was just going to naturally just do this thing, right?
Right.
But it was a wake up moment for me. And I knew early on this wasn't
a long game. Yeah.
I'll do this because it keeps me around the game.
Football,
and all that.
It's fun.
But my day job and what I was doing, what I wanted to learn was the real estate game, man. And that's where it took me.
Yeah, it sure did.
Yeah.
So let's talk about a little bit about what you're up to these days.
Lieutenant Rep.
Yeah,
wrestler. Man. Yeah. So I got recruited by
So who'd you start talking? Like when you decide, all right, I'm gonna
Steve Jarvie.
Steve Jarvie.
A guy named Steve Jarvie.
Sure.
Steve Jarvie was at JLL. You probably know Steve at JLL. And Steve and I's kids went to Trinity Christian together.
Okay. Sure.
And Steve, from day one, since I'd known Steve, he'd always say, yeah, you're going to do real estate. This is what you're going to do.
Yeah.
And he was really adamant about the brokerage side of the business.
Sure.
So I was officing at Weber and Company. Sitting in my office, and ESRP, which was Emmett and the rest of the crew, they were down. They had moved into the building. I had been there for a long time, like 10 years.
Okay,
and then they moved into the building, a floor above us,
Was that right there at Keller Springs?
Ralph Keller Springs in its whole way.
Yeah.
And Jarvie had moved over from JLL over to ESRP.
Yeah.
And he and a guy named Damian Rivera came in. They came into the office and basically recruited me over there. And there was a lot going on at the time. There's a lot of changes between Emmett and the rest of the crew.
Yep.
But it took me a while to really make that change because I respected Emmett.
Yep.
I know. I respected Sharon and everybody else. I just wanted to make sure that was settled. And once it was settled, I made the change. And I had so many people. The craziest thing about this is that I had so many people on the development side who told me, don't do that.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, stay on this side of the fence.
Right.
And I needed to learn, man. And I felt like that going over to ESRP and being with Sharon and Damian and Steve Jarvie and Brad Struck, bringing with that group, it brought me back to that team feeling.
Sure.
Like there's a camaraderie there.
Well, and that's what the Staubach company did so well.
Exactly. I felt like I was in a locker room all over again. And a lot of the young guys that were coming out of college, man, they were getting their upstart. I was way older than those guys, but I was getting my start in this business. But I wanted to see them have some success as well. And I don't know, I felt like there was just a part of me. And even to this day, like I love being in the office. I love seeing the people. I love, helping out where I can help out.
That's right.
But that's the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing.
How you got
now.
into commercials.
Yeah.
What's been the hardest transition part about the commercial real estate business?
You know what? I think the hardest part is the humility all over again. Because I got in that world thinking, oh shoot, I know everybody. I know Conrad. I know so and so. And Conrad looks for office space. I'm gonna be the guy. And they're like, right. You know how to tackle people. I don't trust you with my lease, right? So there's a lot of humility.
There really is.
There is
in anything that's new, right? But you always think, oh, this is easy.
Yeah. And it's not, that part of it, I kind of was like, okay, I get that part of it. I think the learning curve for me was harder than I naturally felt like. It was harder because I wasn't used to, first of all, going to this day, like going through leases and all. That's not my best. And it's almost like learning who you are at the age that you are and where does your true value lay in what you're doing. What's your role?
Right.
Like I've always been the captain, right? Well,
right.
I'm not the captain here.
No.
I'm not the elder statesman that knows everything, right?
No.
These people have been in this business for 20 years.
I'll never forget the first time I looked at a lease agreement. I was like, this is like Chinese.
We went back to that algebra, didn't we?
Right? No, but for real, right? Now it's like second nature, right? You've read enough, you understand what all these clauses mean and what they're trying to push you in this and that. But yeah, I mean it's like learning to walk again.
Yeah, exactly. And you got to learn like what role is your role. And it took me a while to figure that out because I wanted to do a little bit of everything.
Sure.
And then it got to be like, hey man, you're good at this.
Right.
And my partners had to tell me, the Sharons and the Karas and everyone had to tell me, no, this is where you're good at. This is where your value lays. Go do it 100%.
That's right.
And that's exactly what I did, man.
Right.
And that's just cool. And I think that I attribute that back to football in the fact of being coachable.
Sure.
Like just being coachable and showing up every day and being available to your teammates and letting the process guide you.
Yes.
Instead of you trying to control the process. So I've had I'm telling you, man, we have the best office.
Yeah. Y'all got great people up there.
We got good people. Want to see other people come up. We're big in the community.
Yes.
Huge in the community. And leadership knows what they want.
Yeah. What do you enjoy most about commercial real estate so far?
The wins.
Yeah.
The wins.
I think that's why so many athletes are in this business, right? It's the closest thing you can get to like the competition.
Yeah,
and it's fierce in this city.
It is,
you've figured that out.
Yeah, absolutely. The competition's thick. And competition's good.
It's right.
Very good, man. I got a lot of respect across the board for
I mean, dude, I tell people if you can win in Dallas, commercial real estate, you literally can win anywhere.
Yeah.
I think the only other place that's remotely close is New York City.
Yeah, I agree. I would agree with that.
And, but like, yeah, it's just, there's so many companies that were formed here and based here, and the level of training and just how serious we take commercial real estate here compared to other areas is just, it's unmatched.
I mean, just think about the hits like Trammell Crow and like, I mean, this thing is, it was born
Crow,
here.
Ross Perot, you know, I mean, it just doesn't stop. You know, Roger, obviously. You know,
it's like the Mecca of
it really
real
is.
estate.
It really is.
So
the wins are awesome.
The wins are awesome, but I think the wins, not so much for me, but the wins when you see your team put in the work.
Yeah,
like you see, you see your teammates come in, and trust me, we lose probably more than we win, hands down.
You always will,
hands down. But to see the process and people that work their butt off, show up every day, do all the little things, have 3 or 4 kids at home, and then they get a win, and then you see it in their eyes, man.
Yeah,
dude, there's nothing like that. Like the joy of watching someone else feed their family or meet their goals or whatnot. That's why.
That's my favorite part of the business now is seeing our young guys win deals, make life-changing money.
Yeah, grow. Yeah.
You know, I'd rather do that all day. I'd rather see them win all day than, go do another 500,000 square foot warehouse deal, which is nice.
Yeah,
we all like.
Yeah.
But it at this point in my career, it's like, it's really cool to see that, like you said, in the eyes.
Yeah. Yeah.
What would you tell young kids getting in the business today? What are the keys to being successful?
Show up every day.
Yeah.
Just be available. Like I'm telling you right now, it's not that hard, man.
No, it's really not.
Like life. Like in general, this is not just commercial real estate. In the NFL, Jimmy Johnson, when I first came in my first year, he said, you cannot make the club in the tub. Meaning if you're hurt all the time and you're not on the practice field and you're not in the meetings and you don't play on Sundays. At some point you got to.
That's right.
Something's got to give, right? So here's availability. This is what availability does for you when you show up every single day. One, your coaches or your peers see you show up every day, consistently walk through that door.
Yep.
Consistently.
Yep.
So as a coach, I don't have to worry about you because on Sunday, I know you're going to be there.
That's right.
Because I've watched you Monday train. I've watched you Monday prepare and watch extra film. I've watched you Tuesday, Wednesday. I've seen you every single, you're not late. You're always on time. You always do the right thing. I can trust you on Sunday. And it's no different. I can't tell you how many times when young guys come in our office, they come into our office, and the guys who stick are the ones who show up every single day because they get brought on deals.
That's right. Or they're there late.
Yeah, they're there late.
Early.
And you just happen. I had a deal one time come through. I can tell you, man, it's the craziest one. Tyler Klutz.
Sure.
Okay, so Tyler Klutz played in the NFL. He's one of our brokers now. So we had I ran into it. I was at the Cowboys club having dinner, ran into someone that was looking for a guy walked up and said, hey man, I know you're in the commercial. I know you're looking for, I need some office, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, what are we looking for? He's I need about 40,000 square feet. Just ran into him. Right. So I'm sitting there like, okay. Well,
is this real?
This is real. One, this is real. Secondly, I'm gonna need some help on this because I ain't going through this damn lease by myself. Let's call it what it is. So I said, okay. I said, hey man, let me. I had to. He asked me to come back because I had to run back to my office, which our office is walking distance, right? So I walk into our office. Tyler, who at the time was always there late. He's the only one. It's a Friday after 6:00. Guess who I grabbed? Because that guy is there every Friday late doing his work.
That's right.
Grabbed him. We walked in there, got the deal done, and got the relationship.
You're touring properties the next week, baby.
All in. But that's the fact of just showing up.
Just showing up. That's right.
Just showing up, man. And my kids are the same. I told my kids the same thing every day.
Yeah.
Good things will happen.
Yeah.
It's almost the opposite is if I'm going to go out to a club every weekend, every Saturday and Sunday, out at the club, every Saturday and Sunday, and eventually something bad's going to happen.
Yep.
If I'm out past midnight, and I'm in the club and I'm consistently out every other night in the club, something bad's going to happen after midnight, right?
That's right.
Well, something good usually happens when you're at work and you consistently.
That's right.
You're consistently there.
You're absolutely right.
No.
Darren, we're going to close with what I call the C-suite closer. So these are just like little quick hitting questions.
Go ahead.
Where people maybe will learn something neat about it. What's something that most people don't know about you?
I'm a nerd.
Really?
I'm a nerd. I'm a nerd in the fact that I have a software company, a little small software company here in Dallas. I wouldn't call it small anymore. We're growing. But I love software. I love to read about software. I love to be around the techs and techie folks.
All right.
Even in my own commercial real estate office where we have our data analysts. There's just
love that stuff.
There's something about it. I just have this little nerd in me that
you must have loved watching film too.
All day long.
Were you a film guy?
Oh my God. I could tell you, man, we said things have changed now, but we used to have the clicker back in the day. I used to have this red light on that. I could tell something went wrong with that clicker. I could open that clicker up, fix that damn thing. I'm telling you. Coaches are like, what's wrong with this thing? Give it to me.
And it's so funny. The guys who end up being the best guys with the longevity in the NFL live in the film room.
Yeah, they do. They do.
You know?
They're students of the game.
I've heard the stories about Zach Thomas, like he just was a student of the game. That guy wasn't the fastest.
Right.
You know, but man, he knew where every damn ball was.
Exactly.
He knew where the ball was going every damn time it was going to be snapped.
Yeah.
What's the most impactful book you've read?
Hands down, the Bible.
Amen.
You talk Psalm, there ain't another book that I would even mention as far as that has paved the way for me. I am a big King David fan.
Okay.
I am all the way because I've seen if you read David and you read about his ups and his downs and his lives, it's life.
It's life.
It's life. You're not going to be perfect, and how he's overcome and how he was a man after God's own heart.
Right.
And I can't tell you how many times that I've been wrong and I've prayed in the same spirit that David has prayed in. I'll read about David and I find a way through a lot of the problems just from reading. I don't even look at, I can tell, we can talk about The Outlier. I love that book, The Outlier.
Yeah,
That's one of my favorites, but there's so many books that are out there that are accessible to me, but I can't tell you how much scripture means to me every single day. Great. I did a speech the other day, and a guy asked me the same thing. And before the speech, they asked me, they said, hey, look, we're agnostic here with our company and, don't mention your faith and this and that. And I was like, oh, whatever. I said, but if someone asks me about my faith,
I'm going to tell them.
I'm going to stand on it.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, I did a speech, 45 minutes, and they opened it up for Q&A. The first question was, a man said, hey, man, what part of scripture is your favorite? And I told him, hey, Psalm, blah, 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 blah. He says, hey, man, his words, not my words, his words. Thank you for standing on your faith. And I said, absolutely.
That's so great.
Yeah.
Top 3 musicians or bands on your Spotify playlist.
Tupac. I just got done talking about
you Pac guy,
scripture and all that.
Okay.
And I'm going to go ahead and give you 2.
I'm more of a Dre guy.
Oh, okay.
I love Dre.
Do you?
I mean, dude, Dre and Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, Dre and Snoop Dogg. Yeah,
that is the best. To me, that's the best period of rap, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Pac is great.
Yeah.
It's a little aggressive.
Yeah. But that was game day. That's game day.
Oh,
Pac,
yeah,
right?
that's game day.
All day. Okay, so I'll give it to you. Here are my top 3.
But how much better? Hold on, real quick. How much better was the Super Bowl performance by Dre versus Drake? What we just went through a couple weeks ago. I mean, Dre was so good. Him and
Dre and Snoop and all them. That's because you grew up in that time.
That's true.
And you can imagine what you were doing. Like, oh man, I was on the street. I was doing this and that. I guess I attribute it like Tupac, because Tupac was 25, 26 when he died, right?
I know.
But I remember getting ready for games with that music, right?
Yeah.
Jay-Z, I can't tell you how many songs that applied to my life and how I used to get ready and prepare. And I had the music in the background. Those two probably the most influential. And then I always had like a Mary J. Blige. I always had an R&B singer that fell in there somewhere.
Now, has any Texas country penetrated you at all? No. It's not happening.
I just
can't do it.
And trust me, I don't mind. Like, whatchamacallit? I tell you, one of my favorites. So is what's his name? Got the
George Strait?
No, Big Voice.
Chris Stapleton.
Chris Stapleton. Boy.
Yeah, that's a voice.
I saw Chris Stapleton.
That's a voice.
And I said, man, that's no.
Yeah.
I could get down.
Yeah, that's pretty legit.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
If you could have coffee with one historical or famous figure, who would you choose?
That's still alive or any?
No, any. Outside. Other than Jesus, because a lot of people say Jesus. Yeah, so give me somebody outside of Jesus.
Muhammad Ali. I grew up on watching a black man be confident, bold, say what he wants to say, and deal with the consequences. Yeah. And that shaped me in a lot of ways because, coming from where I came from, there was so much suppression in the fact that you didn't see a lot of strong black men. And I didn't have that father figure in my life, but I watched this man tell you that he's going to knock someone out in the fourth round, and he'd knock him out in the fourth round. And he had such a swagger and such a confidence about who he was. It kind of,
it was definitely earth-shattering at that point.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, it was not normal.
That's right. He was disruptive.
People to be that bold.
Right. Yeah.
Regardless of race.
Exactly.
Right.
He was disruptive to all sports, to everyone, because he was kind of that lightning rod. But I've learned in life, if you really want change, you got to be disruptive in some way. Like, you can't, everyone can't love you.
No, you can't please everybody.
Yeah, you can't. And there's a difference between being nice and being good. Like, I want to be good. Being nice is just a facade. I'm like, you can just be nice here and there, but I want to be good.
Yep.
And I saw that in Muhammad Ali. He had good in his heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think who would you have taken, Tyson or Muhammad? Both.
Ali. I'm taking Ali.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I'm taking Ali.
If you could live anywhere else in the world, where would it be and why?
If I could live anywhere else in the world, where would it be? If we could turn California into a red state.
I'm the same way. It's great to visit, isn't it? But I don't want to pay taxes there.
I can't do business there.
I can't do business there. Yeah, I know. California's a pretty good place.
It's beautiful, man.
And there's so many great spots there.
Yes.
From the southern end to the northern end. It's incredible.
Yeah, I love Orange County, man. I just love,
County's beautiful.
I fly into John Wayne. Yeah. Newport, where Sharon is right now. One of my colleagues is there.
Yeah.
But I would say, yes, that would be. And my wife's from Northern California.
Is she really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
She's from Redding, California, way north.
Okay. Yeah.
We go a lot.
Yeah.
But I can only stay for,
I know,
a short period of time. Yeah.
Favorite restaurant in Dallas today?
Dude, Samir is my guy.
Yeah.
Nick and Sam's. It don't matter where. I don't even say Nick and Sam's. Samir. Wherever Samir is cooking, he could be cooking at someone's house. Man, dude, he's by far.
Nick and Sam's, I always people. I'm like, just go because it's great. And the experience is incredible. It's such a beautiful space in there. Yeah. Yeah, it's a great spot.
I love Nick and Sam's Tango Room. My guy Simon runs Tango Room over there.
Yeah.
The Charles. I mean, there's a lot of places.
The Charles is
there's a lot of really good restaurants. But it's to me it's a relationships too. And I've known Samir for 25 years.
Yeah.
And he's always come correct, man. He knows how to do it. He
does know how to do it. Lastly, I know you're extremely big into giving back and charities, and I always like talking about making impacts on others. Are there some that you'd like to share about that you're passionate about?
Yeah, C5 Texas. So I got involved with C5 Texas about 8 years ago, and Conrad, I've been on the board of Make-A-Wish Foundation. I've worked with Salvation Army, United Way. I've worked with a lot of charities when I was playing, and even after I was done. But about 7 years ago, I got involved with C5 Texas, and C5 Texas is a mentoring program for youth starting in their seventh grade. So the seventh graders stay together. We usually bring in about 35 seventh graders. Wow. They stay together all the way up through high school. So seventh grade, eighth grade, ninth grade, 10th, all the way up. The goal is once you come into the program, you're graduating. You graduate from high school and you're going to college.
Yep.
Hands down, right? I've poured into a lot of these kids, and a lot of it is when they get into high school, they go to college, they visit college campuses, UT, Sam Houston, Texas A&M. We take them their freshman year to these college campuses, and these are the same kids that have never left their neighborhood.
Right.
Have 8 or 9 people living in the house.
Yeah.
Like
they will be the first ones to graduate college.
They will be the first ones to graduate from high school.
Yeah.
Some of them. Yeah. So for just to be around it and to know that we're making some change.
Yeah. It's all about exposure.
It is, man. It's exposure, just experience. And I wish I would have had, I was a C5 kid. I would have been a really good, I probably wouldn't have failed out. I probably would have done a better job and not been a Prop 48 if I had C5 because it's a mentoring program. We're going to hold you accountable.
Sure.
Know that you're a good leader, but we're going to hold you accountable and teach you how to be a good community leader. So C5 Texas has been
awesome.
My go-to.
I love that. I want to hear more about that some other time.
Yeah, we definitely
That's really cool. It truly boils down to just exposure to things. And when you get exposed to those things, those kids who come from what we would call disadvantaged areas, they realize there's more out there.
Yeah. Not only do they realize there's more out there, but they understand that they're not a victim.
Yeah.
And if they really want to change,
just get after it.
Just get after it too. Just go get it. Just go.
There's a young man that I mentor. He grew up where I grew up, and down in the Rio Grande Valley is like the poorest place in the United States. And he grew up literally like, dirt floor, but something clicked in high school and he started studying and getting good grades and, got a scholarship to go to Texas Tech. And, now he works for Woodbine Development, here in town,
That's good.
And it's just great to hear those type of stories. Neither of his mom or dad can speak English or any of those things. And
I got one for you. Before we close.
Yeah.
And here's the one that really, really impacted me and changed and made me really think about it. I was at Whole Foods with my wife, and I never go shopping. I can't stand in the store. So
whole paycheck.
Yeah, whole paycheck. So we're at Whole Foods. This is like 4 years, about 5 years ago. And a young man walks up to me, black kid walks up to me, and he's like, "Hey, I just want to say thank you." And I said, "Thank you for what?" And he said, "Well, our church years ago, you used to support our trip to DC, Washington DC. So my church, there used to be a little. We used to have a group of about 30 kids that I would basically pay for the trip for them to go to Washington DC on buses." Not on plane flight.
Buses.
So bus with the kid, mom or dad, one parent could go with them, right? So they would go up to DC and spend time and go see Georgetown and go see all the monuments and all that. And then they would come back.
Yeah.
So I'm standing there and my wife is, we're talking to him. He said, "I just want to say thank you." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Well, you supported that. And I was one of those kids." And I was like, "Oh man, appreciate it."
Awesome.
And he's like, "Yeah." He said, "Well, I ended up going to Georgetown because it's my first time being to DC. I went to Georgetown. I'm an attorney now, and I'm working for Haynes Boone." And I was like, "Man, dude,
wow, that's impact."
I would never, ever have thought that there was
you made any kind of right. That's incredible.
Yeah,
that's such good stuff. Bro, that's a great way to end.
Yeah.
Hell of a story.
Man, appreciate it, bro.
Woody, thanks for coming on today, bud.
Thanks, man.